My name is Sarah Reid, and this is my handmade home in southern New Hampshire. Hey guys, welcome to my house. Come on in. I live here with my husband Matthew and our amazing cat George. My dad's parents, they were looking for a little retreat. They were in their 40s. They befriended the landowner and bought it for several $100s in 1963. So they found a kit company in Maine who they built all the timber, and it came on a flatbed truck down this little dirt road, and spent the summer building it, just the three of them. When we took over it, it had wood rafters and kind of a yellowish insulated panels in between the rafters, and it was pretty dark. So it was really important to me to brighten it up. And I know some people hate when we paint wood, but I don't, and so I wanted it white, so I did that. The living room is where we spend most of our time. This stove is so iconic for the 60s, which is when this place was built. It really makes the room. Like, everything in here is like family artifacts. These are crates that literally my mom and uncle traveled across the country with. This is my mom's parents' sofa. It was this orange wool that I had recovered. I lovingly call this house Frankenstein or Frankie because it is so cobbled together. It is, each room has its own personality. As a designer, you know, I like cohesiveness and I like the whole house to tell a story. And I have wondered, like, is it weird to go from this pine room into this white? You're not gonna unify it with paint. Like, it's a weird space or unique space. We have a lot of books. We have a joke about how he wants to die by being crushed by books, and I want to die by being killed by my houseplants. So it's a houseplant book race to see who will get us first. This kitchen is only 8 by 8 feet, but it's incredibly efficient. 2 of us can be in here working. My grandparents had it set up very differently, and I knew it wasn't going to work for us. We kept their old sink, and I have so many memories of my grandmother at this sink. I happened to have this Hoosier. It's exactly the size of the sink, so we took it apart, plopped it in there, and then this fit perfectly under the skylight. It has lots of weird little spaces, so I found products that fit. I designed this whole thing very specifically for this use. It flows really well for us. This is the dining room. My grandparents added it to the A-frame in 1980. There was no electricity here, so everything you see was built by hand. There was no power tools here. So my grandfather, like, hand sanded and hand joined and did all the work. My grandparents would be here in the summers, and I would see them when I was visiting my dad. It was that way until the 90s when my grandfather died and my grandmother got too old to be here, and it just sat here. Everybody agreed that I could take it on, so I did. We got the A-frame in 2011, and my grandmother had left all of her stuff here, and it had been sitting since the 90s. It was heart-wrenching to see my grandfather's slippers, literally slippers by the door. Their toothbrushes were still in the cup by the sink. The table that I ate so many meals at, just all the artifacts of their life. But I also knew that I really wanted it to be mine, and that we would just carry on the legacy of the A-frame in my own way. I brought my dad's old door from his original house over, and we made a table out of that. So it's still a really meaningful table. It's just not the old table that I grew up with. At some point in the 90s, they had me and all of my cousins and aunts and uncles engrave our names. I don't even know if you can see it. I'm like way down here. I put myself in the corner. I had forgotten that we had etched our names into that glass. I'm gonna cry. I actually rediscovered it just a couple years ago because you don't really see it. You know, handwriting is so immediately personal and brings you to that person. So to see my whole family's handwriting, and how could I get rid of that, you know? My grandfather built this. It's the same as it ever was. We built this in to be more functional in the kitchen and because we love a good bar. As a designer, it sounds really woo-woo, and I'm not a woo-woo person. I'm really not a new age person, but I really like to walk into a space and ask it, what do you want to be? What do you need? It was really important for me to keep some of my grandparents and to make it my own, but also to make it what it wanted to be. One of the things that I love about the A-frame is it affords all these very strange nooks and crannies to kind of put stuff that are unusual. This is the most controversial thing I've ever done on Instagram. I know, it's breaking the spines, I know. We've read most of them, or we're not going to read them. They're okay, I love them, so don't at me. So this room was added in 2016. We were married in the summer of 2015 across the street at my parents' house, and my dad built us a temporary barn structure for the party. Everything you see, other than the pine cladding, was part of that structure. These are the original floorboards. This is where a friend of ours passed out at the reception, and someone else outlined him. After the wedding, my dad took down the barn and made this room. My only instructions were, I want it to be as big as possible, and I want these twin bed guest beds to use the angle of the A-frame. One of the things that I love about this room is the height of this wall and seeing the exterior of the A-frame. I really wanted to use the slope of the exterior of the A-frame in some way, and I realized that beds kind of jutting out would be amazing, and we happened to have this ladder lying about. For our wedding, we had our friends sign the building itself rather than a guest book, knowing that we were gonna do this. So we cut them all up and made these beds, and now we can never move. I don't really know where my body stops and this house begins. Like, it is so one and the same to me. I feel more encouraged and emboldened to ask them to dig a little deeper when we're doing that process, the design process, because I think it's really good for your heart and your mind. Aesthetically, beauty is really, really important to me. I think it's important to the human psyche. A lot of people don't live with a lot of physical beauty in their spaces, and I think they just don't know, it's not their thing, and they don't know how to do it, and they think it costs a lot of money. And so I'm always trying to use what they have, to repurpose what they have, to get them into thrift stores. I'm not interested in spending a lot of money. I've always been interested in getting the insides of a person externalized in their environment. So when I'm working with a client, I talk to them a lot about family history, cultural history. I'm always looking for their more personal items to use. I think one of the ways that I am different than other designers is I will take on a client for a couple-hour job. I don't need to take on a huge house and fill it with all the things that are new from big box stores. I love just pointing out to someone like, oh, you want this room to feel this way? What if you took your living room rug and brought it in here? And then they do that and they're like, literally our lives have changed. It's all the small little ways that you can affect your space that I hope I illuminate those for my clients. This space was actually kind of a nothing space when we moved in full time. So I asked my dad to build this, because I've always wanted a library. Who doesn't want a library? But we clearly don't have just an extra room to make into a library. So we have a little nook, a little library nook. When you're designing a new build, you wouldn't end up with so many weird little nooks and crannies. I mean, I'm a big history buff. I've always loved history, and so to feel history in a space, you can't design that, and you can't replicate it. You can't make it happen. It has to happen over time, and I think as humans, we can just sense that. And this chair specifically is so, so special to me. I respond to objects. I don't really respond to art. I don't really respond to movies. It's objects and the arrangement of objects that make me just gasp out loud. So when I saw this chair, it was like seeing your crush or something, you know? I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's gonna be $500. I don't have that kind of money. And I asked the guy who was selling it, how much do you want for the chair? And he said, $35? And I said, okay, yes, please, thank you, yep. So this is my immediate family. When I was growing up, these two walls were covered in portraits of all the grandchildren. So I knew I wanted to do something like that here. And then this is for the people we have lost. This is Bob, and I love him. He married us, and he died last year. And this was taken in this space. So it's really just meaningful to see him every day. My grandparents were really very interesting people, really hard people. And they never imagined this A-frame beyond themselves. And so I don't know what they would think. I'm sure they would be happy that it's still in the family. In 2011, when the family was contemplating selling it, the idea that strangers or even family friends would take it on, I think emotionally felt like strangers would be moving into my grandparents' literal bodies. Their bodies and beings and humanness was so connected to this land, to this property, that I couldn't really separate them. I have such a deep connection to my family history. I know a lot of people don't. I guess my family has always had a culture of honoring that and thinking about it and talking about it. It would have been really heartbreaking. This is our dressing room. It was my grandparents' bedroom. A-frames really have their challenges when it comes to storage and angles. I found these really shallow dressers and decided to make a whole wall of them. They came as raw pine. I just took some paint that I had, and I thought I would try to do a plaid, but it turns out that plaid is incredibly hard to draw and paint. So I got some wallpaper in kind of the same color scheme. It just kind of came out of me. These rugs are really important to me. My husband's aunt was an artist, and when she passed, we were allowed to take one thing from her house. She was a real kindred spirit to me. So when I walk on this, I think of her. When we moved here, I was finally like reunited with all my stuff. So I went through all of my archives. I have saved everything my whole life. And I just started pinning things up from my life that meant something to me. And eventually it just took on this whole collage, just the biggest collage I've ever made. This room, probably above all the rooms, is where I feel like I'm inside of myself. This A-frame sits on 7 acres, and it is surrounded by literally hundreds of acres of Audubon land. We are very isolated and insulated, except there was this little 60s cabin. So with that, we have this little guest house. So this is the guest house. It's all about this view. It's all about relaxing, reading, writing, puzzles. Whatever is chill and relax, you can do here. This is an antique stove that I love that we had restored, but it's only got 2 burners and there's no oven. Like, chill, make a sandwich. That's cool. It was another family's cabin who I knew. I knew them growing up, and the kids of that couple were so generous and gracious throughout the process of us buying it and renovating it. They've been nothing but supportive, and they've actually visited twice, and I can't say how much it means to have their approval, because we really changed it a lot. They were nice enough to offer it to us before putting it on the market, because that would have really changed our relationship to the land. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Handmade for more home tours just like this.